I had to do a scene that actually wasn't included in the story, which actually ended up informing a lot of the character. So actually, probably, but it was me masturbating.
Right.
And I remembered.
Oh, Mulholland Drive.
Mulholland Drive.
Yes, I was traumatized.
Yeah, so was I. And I was like sort of Googling it, trying to,
Googling it? What did you find?
No. I'm just Googling it on the way over here. But
How to do a masturbation scene.
No, I mean today.
Oh.
Not at the time.
Oh. Jonathan.
Hello, Naomi.
Such a pleasure to finally meet you. I've been hearing so much about you.
I've loved your work for a long, long time.
Oh, thank you.
And in school I actually studied Mulholland Drive.
Which school?
It was called Magdalen College School
in
Oxford, and had an amazing teacher. And we studied film noir, and it was extraordinary. Blew my mind. Your performance in it, obviously, but...
Oh, thank you. It's so... I've heard that schools have studied it before, and that's so wonderful to hear that a film is, being broken apart and investigated still to this day. It's more than 20 years old now.
Yeah.
And it really does stand the test of time.
There's so much to...
There's so much to unpack.
But it's also so sexy as well, and it just sort of absurdist.
Yes, and do you know that there's all kinds of stories that surround the process and, the result, everything, but...
I'm fascinated.
It is a fascinating thing, but at the time when I was being directed by David Lynch, I thought I was doing the worst acting to ever hit the screen, because he kept saying more happy, more excited. You're just getting off the plane. You're just arriving in the Los Angeles. This is the dream of all dreams. And I had to be sort of like going, this is so great. And he was like, no, more. And I was like, this is so great. Isn't this wonderful? And he was like, more. I was like, oh my God, like what do I have to do?
That's literally what we just did in the photo.
Yes, it was like, it's so wonderful. Like Pollyanna times, 10,000. All kinds of steroids. And so, I felt like I was being
But it was so
ridiculous.
truthful. Like unwaveringly truthful all the way through. And it could hold it, couldn't it?
Well, he knows, he's a master of creating a surreal atmosphere, but it's always rooted in truth.
Right.
He knows when it's not playing truthfully.
Yeah.
But it was a highlight of my career.
Well, but also your career is amazing, because your choices and the people that you work with. Maybe first question is, for auteurs to want to work with you, and the experience of going into someone's brain like that and then continuously through.
I mean, I got very, very lucky because of working with David. I think all of the great auteurs around saw his work, saw this film, and had a similar reaction, and so I was definitely on those lists. And I don't know that I'm on them so much all the time, anymore. I mean, Ryan Murphy has definitely put some speed back into it, which it feels really great to be here and having.
That's amazing for it to hear from my perspective, because you're
I'm not joking around here. It goes like this, and I think it's very rare that it just goes in one direction.
But it's about perception of that, isn't it? Because for me, I would say I wouldn't be aware of that at all.
Well, I shouldn't have said anything, should I?
No, it's good that you did. No, but it's great. No, because I totally understand that.
But the thing is you're always trying. You're always setting out to tell these brilliant stories or play these fantastic characters. And sometimes the pairing with great directors, and sometimes you take a risk on a first-time director. It's always different, and it's always kind of a gamble. Even with someone that's quite tried and true, it can still not.
Well, there's so many mercurial elements that
and even if it's a good piece of work, whether or not audiences receive it every single time is still unsure,
With Feud, which I loved, and you were an executive producer on it. Yeah. So you've worked with Gus Van Sant before, haven't you?
Yes. On Sea of Trees.
Sea of Trees, that's right.
Yeah.
And so and Ryan before.
Yes, on The Watcher.
And had you
I remember some names.
No, this is good. And is it Robin, John,
John Robbie Bates.
John Robbie Bates.
Yes.
He's a brilliant writer.
Brilliant.
Playwright.
Theatre, exactly.
So then did you bring, because you're the sort of common denominator there, did you bring them together?
No, absolutely not. Ryan is the master of his world, and he creates, he brings the people. But I happened to be working on The Watcher, having a good experience with him, and he told me that he'd like to talk to me about this project.
Amazing.
And of course I was interested right away. Just to work with him again, without even hearing about the material, it would be a strong yes.
It's something every woman deserves, to be made to feel like the most important person in the world by a man who truly loves her.
Each time we would next talk, it would be like, here's the writer, here's the filmmaker, here's the other actors, and it just got better and better. And this is one of those occasions, and I think when we get to talking about Fellow Travelers, where all things just line up and synchronize in a beautiful way, where the words on the page just lifting off the page. There you have the great filmmaker, and you have the tone is set, and the actors are bringing these incredible
iconic material, iconic characters, and then iconic women,
and this
Tom
era,
playing those parts. Oh yeah, well, which is what we share, right?
We share this era.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
So so you didn't read scripts. So in this instance, you were signing on because of Ryan, obviously.
Yeah, and the story, and I, knew about these women.
Yeah.
I knew about Capote. Don't forget, I'm not American, so it's not like I'm.
You're British.
I'm British and Australian. I have to say both, because I get in trouble otherwise.
You've toured the world.
Yes. But weirdly, I've spent more time in America than either England or Australia now. But I'm not American.
Right. And your relationship to here, are you East or West Coast?
East.
Which feels connected to Europe, and
it does. Then urban living. I mean, I miss living in Los Angeles. I used to live here, but because it was closer to Australia, it was fantastic.
Yeah.
But I do like living in New York. I love hate it.
I love New York.
Do you
live
burn
there
out
in New York?
Do you ever stay?
Well, I stay. No,
well, you do theatre though, don't you?
I do. Yeah,
a lot.
I do love theatre. Yeah,
yes.
And that's for that reason. I do think New York is like, and
gotta...
also it's just like, I mean, I went to the Universal Studios backlot for the first time whilst I was here,
right.
and because I
just
haven't spent
recently,
much time, just recently, and it's the same experience, isn't it? Like cinematically, New York.
Yeah, right.
The sort of history of that, and obviously with the theatres as well. Yeah. Obsessed with it. Yeah. I
heard that you were shooting 3 things at the same time. Is this true?
That's true. That is
Bridgerton,
true.
Fellow Travelers.
Did you hear my voice just broke?
Yeah, well, because you had PTSD.
Yeah, I think
like,
maybe,
just
yeah.
actually
There's some
speak.
residual trauma there.
And Wicked.
Yeah, I was rehearsing for Wicked at the same time. But I didn't know that was going to... Yeah, I mean, it was
and the
wild.
Gymnastics of that, like,
yeah.
I cannot actually believe it. Like, different dialects, different periods, different tones, different...
There were moments where it sort of meshed together in kind of a kooky way.
In a kooky good way?
There's videos actually that I have rediscovered of this time, because it was, I think there was 33 days where I was working in a row, and I went back and forth from Canada to London 3 times within that. So I was going straight from the airport to set.
That's multitasking on another level.
I know.
Like,
what I've learned about my brain though is that was when I was really calm through that.
Really?
As in, yeah, and which maybe, there's something to be said. Well, I want to ask you obviously about Babe.
Stop going back to me.
I was going to say that there's something to be said for just like free falling and not having enough time and just going on instincts.
Yeah.
And the way that it was sort of, I knew that I was going back to start Bridgerton in London, and we had specific dates to work with them. So it was just amazing how, people came together to make it work.
It doesn't matter how she got their attention. She did.
And now?
She's screwed. You're both screwed.
I feel like actually doing Fellow Travelers, my understanding of like the amount of people that can hold you up in doing these extraordinary stories and parts, and so I've got so many people to thank for that. But they had an allotted amount of time, so Fremantle and Showtime just said, yeah, we'll do it. I auditioned with Matt and then made it work, and I knew it was going to be tough, but I'd finished a play, and it was just the last week of the play that I'd found out that I was going to do this. And I had a moment's thought, because I was really, at the end of doing theatre, it's like, I know your husband's doing theatre in
Yes.
London at the moment. I wonder how he's getting
a
on.
one-man show, no
Yeah,
less.
I mean, wild.
Yeah, but so I was talking to him about having this interview with you today, and doing that one-man show is a lot of muscular work. It's very, he speaks for an hour and 20 minutes and plays 14 characters, and it's a lot, but he literally goes into his cave and recovers. He's not out, you know, drinking and like having fun and socializing. Afterwards, he goes home.
You have to live
10
like a
minutes
really
after,
sort of athletic nun.
Yeah, and then he stays inside and tries not to speak. So I was telling him.
Have you got a window where you can speak to him?
Yes, like literally once a day if I'm lucky. But I respect it, the discipline, the, you know, and when you see that show, like it's mind-blowing in what he does. And don't forget, we're in our 50s here, so that's a lot.
And also it's relentless to go out on stage every night,
yes,
I think.
the nerves,
Yeah, the nerves.
But I was saying that you were doing 3 shows, 3 things at once.
Yes.
And he was like, well, that's just showing off.
I literally was like picked up by people that were like popped on a plane, and then I'd sleep and then wake up and go. But no, it was progressive. So because Wicked, I started rehearsing, but there are some videos on my phone which I was crying looking at, and it's me as Tim.
Right.
In like a tie and a jacket, 50s tie jacket, and then like Nike sweatpants, learning the choreography or like on the lunch break. And there was one, I do remember one day particularly where Matt Bomer was just like, what's going on? Because we shared a 2-way, and he must have just been trying to have his...
oh my God. I mean, I can't imagine how you were dreaming at night. Like,
it was wild. And actually, it's funny when you play those sorts of parts. And with Babe as well, there's such an incredible interior world.
Yes,
that you... I do think also, like, your eyes are just incredible. The ability to be able to communicate with words, but also with non-verbal, sort of just... I think David Lynch loves that as well.
Yes,
there was just so
well,
much.
and how he holds a shot. And,
yeah. And also with Gus Van Sant in this, he would...
Well, and this, in Feud, I one of the most restrictive things, because playing a character that looks nothing like me, so there was this transformation to make.
Yeah.
It's not just the hair and accent.
No, it's contacts.
It was contacts. I had brown contact lenses, and I have very sensitive eyes, and they're quite big because you've got to cover the whole thing. Anyway, and it was really difficult to get them in. Anyway, long story, but it really did feel like
I really wanted to ask you about that specifically. That's why I was going back to Mulholland, because I, in Wicked, had to wear contact lenses.
Yeah, it's horrible, isn't it?
Well, especially if you know that that's something that you can rely on in terms of how to communicate what's going on for a character.
Yes, and you feel like it just took away one of your skills or something.
Yeah.
It's like, first of all, for me, because to go darker, and I had teeth, it was like wearing sunglasses all day.
Yeah.
I just felt like there was something between me and the
you look like
the
you're
other
out
actor
like a smelly
or
greenhouse
the
or
camera.
something.
Yeah, and having to produce tears was even more difficult because they dry your eyes out so badly.
She won't speak to me because I chose you instead of her.
And then the smoking, like, you know.
Do you not think sometimes it helps when you smoke, because then the smoke
love
goes in
a
the eye
prop.
and then you can cry and smoke?
And little cheeks.
Just try to stuff it out. But the transformation was extraordinary. And actually, what also I was going to say is that I didn't realise you were wearing contacts, actually. So nothing in the performance was lost. But it's only then...
No, and I was really nervous about it. And then the teeth. We had loads of conversations about the teeth. Yeah. And I think Ryan is quite nervous about prosthetics in general. Yeah. And I don't blame him. It's awful when you see someone and it just, you can't get lost in the story because you're looking at...
distracting.
Yeah. So I certainly never wanted to do that, but I did want to attempt to look more like her. And though there was no audio recordings or visual, it was just photographs. And she just really had these fantastically perfect teeth because she'd had a car accident when she was really young. And so she had false teeth, and my teeth are just not that great, English teeth. And so I tried them on once, and I just felt really ridiculous. And so we pulled them back, and we did 2 rounds of pulling them back a bit. And then I had to learn to speak with them because you get quite lispy. And even my dialect coach, who's worked with me, Liz Himmelstein, for 20 years at least, and she was really like, oh, I don't know if we should do this.
Because did you keep them in for a long, like, when you were going home?
I had to, because...
Go and see Billy and...
Well, they weren't too crazy.
Were they the ones that just sort of clip?
You just clip them in, and I had the uppers and the lower level too, but I only ever used the lower level when I was actually close to death, because it created a more drawn look and more extreme, I suppose. Yeah.
It was extreme as well. Those final dream sequences of both yours and Truman's sort of meeting. But I love, obviously, there's so many magical elements to, as we were saying, and I just think there's such an amazing conversation in it about like the role of women to gay men.
Yes.
And obviously there's so many comparisons, and I found it really emotionally full, actually, and quite painful.
Yeah, there's a lot of darkness to
Really,
it. A lot
really
of fun
dark, yeah.
and juicy, dangerous stuff, but a lot of sadness. And I think that relationship is emblematic of kind of something, a relationship that doesn't always work, but when it does work, it's so beautiful. Yeah. And I think it only works in that format, in that you take sexual tension out of the mix. You take out this. We're not related, They're not brother and sister, but they are like peas in a pod.
Yeah.
And there's just this trust
and
where
they
they
can
just
be free
fall
with each
into
other in a way that they can't necessarily be.
And there's no competitiveness that there might be with women to women sometimes.
Yeah, and if not that, then they can really bolster each other. And there's these amazing, slightly painful to watch as a gay man, but the conversation that you have with CZ, I think he's going to the glove to go and buy some gloves.
Yeah.
And you talk about how, that gay men act as a buffer, and they can be a walker, and they hold you up and then they don't drop you. But there's something really, and it's no surprise that it's Ryan and Gus and
that's
John.
I mean, this was why, and I want to speak about this with you, but you're being so good at directing this conversation. I'm not keeping up, but the world is surrounded by informed stories, on and off the screen, and it felt really good that it was an anchor. The writers and Gus and all had something to bring to the story.
You can feel it. Yeah. And also when you guys are together, you women looking unbelievable and being completely brilliant and sexy, and did it feel new to you and empowering being there?
I think it felt empowering because so many women in one story is rare.
Yeah.
So many women of a certain age is so rare, and women that appreciate each other. They're women with depth and darkness and challenges, and I don't know. It's just actually turned out to be one of the greatest experiences of my career, and I just feel so fortunate to have had it at this point.
And to be one of the people who led the charge, right?
Oh, it was I feel so lucky, that Ryan presented that.
But it just pings off the screen when those things fly in that way. I think when things mean something.
Yes, when they mean something. That's what I was trying to say, is that we all felt the pain, the beauty, the depth of these stories, and
have lived it in various different ways.
And it really, it just ends up elevating it to another level.
I can't do this. You broke the rules, Skippy. You went there, you palled around with a bunch of queers. You're practically on record. Do you realize that? And I'm just now hearing about it. You keep writing.
In Fellow Travelers, I mean, I'm so moved by that. The love story. It's so powerful. And it feels like Feud in that all things were aligning so well.
Yeah,
the level of performances, the level of the writing, the filmmaking, and this just truthful story that was just...
Yeah, it felt like a sort of wave. I suppose with Ryan, that you were there at the beginning and I came on quite late, but, when I then got to know Matt and Robbie, who produced it, and Ron Niswainer, who I know wrote Pay to Bail. Yes.
I love Ron.
I know.
Yes. I know.
Incredibly special man, isn't
really
he?
Wonderful man. And I haven't seen him in ages. I was so happy to see that.
Yeah, and for him, I remember speaking on just before going on stage, so despairing, mid-panic attack. But I had a Zoom with him and Dan Minahan, who directed it, who is also part of the Ryan family.
Right.
So there's loads of crossovers there. But I spoke to Ron and he said, he adapted this book and he said, for me, I think it's going to be, I've been working on this for 10 years. I think it's going to be, my you know, and he sort of gets really emotional and chokes up every time, but he's like, I think this is my life project, really.
Oh.
And I knew,
and you can feel it.
I knew. I said to him, I said, whoever you invite onto this, I mean, it's such an earnest thing to say, but I meant it. I was like, it's going to be their life project as well. You can just tell. There was no way that now looking back that I wasn't going to do it, now having done it. But at the time I was like, God, it was such a specific thing that you knew that if you got asked and invited into it, that it was going to be great.
I knew I needed to see you. I should have left you alone. And I am so glad you didn't. Please just take me upstairs. Take me upstairs.
Listen to me.
Because it's a big
story.
Well, and because it's a similar time. It's the 50s, and I think
through
to the
in and out of time as well, which
exactly.
they handled so
which
beautifully.
I actually would love to talk to you about.
But did you know about the lavender scare before?
Yeah, I had heard about the lavender scare. I just hadn't understood the complete brutality of that time and McCarthyism. And you know, as a Brit, there's so much about the American experience, but also specifically, you know, politics and the queer experience within it that I hadn't known. So it was, for me also, it was catharsis.
Yes.
And I wondered if that's the same for you women all sat around a table, because, you know, suddenly we're there, 4 gay men, predominantly gay creative team. You know, I'm here today because of my ancestors, or, you know, an industry which is changing.
Yes.
And people have loved gay actors, whether they've been able to say they're gay or not, for years.
Right, yes, of course.
But to be there with those guys and to then have the nuance of conversation, a lunch break, which isn't just about how delicious is the sweet potato.
How delicious is this story, and how does it move you? And
you don't need to say, but there's bits of, clearly people are bringing their own personal stuff, and you don't need to question it, because you don't need to know. And also the Noah Ricketts and Jelani Aladdin, who I love, who play Marcus and Frankie in it, you know, really understanding about civil rights movement and how that intersects with that. And then the role of women in it, you know, which is why it's such a complementing piece.
It was great.
Yeah, and also there was so much to learn, and it was amazing to actually have that space, you know, the opportunity of 8 hours of TV to tell a quite brutal but bruising and lovely love story for gay men. It's, you know, it is new, and it was so beautiful. I cried actually, and a lot. Just, you know, some of the intimate moments, the dancing, and just felt so tender and sweet.
So tender. Yeah.
Also, we both have. There's something very specific that I want to ask you about.
Yeah.
Because I wonder. Because I just wonder if you've spent your career being asked, "What's it like being a woman?" Because I now get asked, "What's it like being a gay man in this industry?" And I think there are real serious parallels between.
Right.
And that's what I think is fascinating between Capote and Babe, and about the parallels of that. But the one question I get asked a lot is about the intimacy in Fellow Travellers, which obviously is...
Yeah, how does that feel to be...
Yeah, and I then remembered I had to do a scene that actually wasn't included in the story, which Ron had written, which actually ended up informing a lot of the character. So actually, probably, you know, but it was me masturbating.
Right.
And I remembered...
Oh, Mulholland Drive.
Mulholland Drive.
Yes, I was traumatized.
Yeah, so was I. And it was... I was like sort of Googling it, trying to,
Googling it? What do you find?
No. I'm just Googling it on the way over here. But
How to do a masturbation scene.
No, I mean today. Oh. Not at the time. Oh. No, I did the online masterclass, Naomi Watts. Masturbation.
Oh, I see. Okay,
no, as in, just because I remembered it. And it was really similar, actually. It was Tim, actually, he had an item of clothing of Hawkins, and it was to do with him and his religion and just, you know, facing all that, and it felt incredibly important to do. But we also had a scene. Anyway, I just remember giggling quite a lot, and the line between feeling comfortable and feeling not, and when the stakes are that high.
Yeah, I remember having to go to the bathroom multiple times, because I think I might have been having explosive something or other. I was so in butterflies, and just, I was freaked out, and David knew that, but he didn't want to not get the scene, and I kept sort of like attempting it and going, I can't do this, David, I can't do it. and he was always, you know, off at the other side of the room in a black tent or something. And actually he made it very private for me, so I was...
And before the time where we have intimacy coaches and all that conversation,
forget that.
So actually, that was,
you know, I was sectioned off, so I couldn't, you know, like, this feels like an open set.
It's
it
just
was not like
here,
that. So I managed to feel a little bit safer because of that, but I just kept crying, and he didn't want a motive scene. He wanted someone who was angry and trying to reconnect with an erotic moment that she'd shared with Lara Herring's character. Can't remember the name of the character, but anyway.
You got her full name though, that was good.
Yes, I did. And God, I couldn't forget her. She's wonderful. It was making me emotional and vulnerable, and I couldn't.
But when the stakes are that high, the emotions sometimes do come out in weird ways, don't they?
Yes, yes.
And with Babe, I mean, she really is the ultimate swan, I think, in this, in terms of how much she's holding and trying to manage.
There are rules, certain rules, aren't there, about how much humiliation one can stand?
Sure.
Because Happy Rockefeller, she was always so jealous.
I'm so jealous.
And like the cancer to me feels so interesting because it feels like the sort of manifestation of Capote. You know, it's just so, something is happening inside of her that we're witnessing in the whole of
But she's always, and that, again, going back to the photos, which was all I had to study, I would see like a little placement of the hand.
Right.
I would see that not a hair was in the wrong place. It was
just perfectionism.
The way she was written about, she would never say the wrong word. She always knew how to converse about whatever topic was current at the time and know how to place a dinner party and, you know, like so much thought and planning and effort goes into that. Exhausting.
It's so tiring.
No spontaneity whatsoever.
Did you hold that anxiety? I mean, like, did you have to leave?
I did. And I also, and this is why I want to go back to the 3 projects at, you know, one time, juggling that. You know, working with TV, you get your words. I don't know if you had all the scripts up front, but we didn't.
No.
We had 4 and then that was it. And, you know, big monologues and working with dialects.
And teeth.
And teeth.
And eyes.
You must work with a dialect coach, do you, or not?
No, I did.
Well, I was like, I'm about to
I
really
definitely
hate
did.
you now.
I did. No, I really did. Yeah, I did a lot.
With fellow travelers, I mean, you must have experienced a certain level of high from the response, like the audiences have been really receiving it well.
Yes.
And critics.
Yeah.
How does that feel?
It feels, you know, incredibly proud of it, and also just the fact that I think for so many people they haven't seen that full queer experience, you know, in this way. As we were saying about, you know, Feud, it's like to do something that's meaningful to a lot of people and to people, you know, who are in areas of the world now where the level of oppression is beyond McCarthyism, obviously. But, you know, that is still a very modern...
Sometimes
you have to go, you know, 50 years behind to show everyone what's happening. And also, I'm really proud of it because I do think, I know that if I wasn't in it, I would have loved it. And I would have, you know, I just know that that's one thing. I also know if I was younger, it would have helped me out a lot. And I also know that all my people in my life who I've come across, and therefore I'm assuming people who don't understand the queer experience and are threatened by it or find it gross or obnoxious or that it's going to come and get them, to watch that and you'll understand. You will literally understand so many things. And like even the sexuality of it is so important because it's part of the gay experience, as it is the human experience.
Yes.
But also you'll understand the nature by which men have these, you know, explosive, passionate, you know, really hot,
I thought
but also
that
quite
was
dangerous
handled
sex.
so wonderfully.
Yeah, I'm proud of it. And actually it was never a moment of self-consciousness with it. It's just, it's funny, isn't it, when you know the big swings you have to take, but actually you trust it. Was it weird to be going from, you were on Bridgerton, which I'm afraid to say I have not seen. That's all right. Save it until
yes, I will. Now I'm going to binge
2052
everything
and you can
on
watch
Jonathan Bailey.
all 99 series of it. Yeah.
And Wicked to come, right?
Yeah, Wicked to come. Yeah.
Is it news? Right, everyone knows.
Going to chase.
Yes.
Well, yeah.
Dinosaurs.
I know. Yeah.
I mean,
Well, I know. I was running away from.
I hope you're feeling really good.
I am feeling it. But I was, you know, I know we're running out of time, but to talk about the Mulholland Drive experience of like an overnight suddenly after I know being in LA and finding feet and then having someone come and go. It's a kind of the Netflix experience, but very early on. To have a massive success that changes things.
Yeah, and with me, I had that, and then I had The Ring, which was a box office.
Yeah.
So Bridgerton, was that the beginning of the launch pad for you? That was changed things, right?
I suppose in a very different way in terms of, you know, the way that the story is told. But it was a Mulholland Drive moment for me in terms of it was just, you know, it was a moment where people see you in a way, you know, and I've been doing theatre and stuff, but yeah, I just think the Netflix effect is very specific phenomena, which is actually personally quite stabilizing, because suddenly, it happens overnight. It's wild. So you have to sort of contend with that, which actually...
And it wasn't overnight, because you've been working since you were a kid.
Well, that's exactly it, yeah.
You've been around.
But I'm so glad that I'd experienced opportunities to try stuff out and to make mistakes, and especially like in my own actual life. Before TikTok and people like chasing you around. I got global entry today to America just to avoid
Yay!
So I'm so excited about it. But yes, and the opportunities that come with that are brilliant. But then for something like Fellow Travellers to have been there right at that time, having, to swing, I sort of described it as being quite punk, to go from a straight character to, as gay as you can find at that time.
Very punk rock. I love that.
And it was a real balm. And it actually... if I could I wouldn't relive it knowing that I've had it, but if I could just have that experience again. I mean, you just don't have, but you have to, It's a bit like, I think, maybe you and Feud, it's like those glowing...
Yeah, it feels good to be having a moment where, you're in a piece of work that you've thrown yourself into, that is landing well with audiences, and you had a great experience making it, and people are calling again, which is nice.
Yeah, I'm calling. I'm going to be calling from now on.
Yeah.
Also, I've always just the one thing I loved is that just generally being called Babe. Do people just call you Babe?
that didn't hurt.
That's not
it was
new,
good.
is it?
Oh, but that's what I was going to say actually. With these long monologues, it was hard because I'm just worried about remembering the lines, and an actor's nightmare, we all know, is we're on stage naked, not remembering our lines, and I was constantly feeling the pressure of getting my words right, because they were such brilliant words. I wouldn't want to mess it up. So, I can't. Normally, I'm quite social on a set. But I couldn't be on this one particularly. So I took up knitting.
Great.
And because I can't get lost in the phone, that's too distracting.
But it's quite nice to do something cognitive, isn't it? Just to put your physical energize what's going on.
Yes, and also it creates a bit of a barrier between you and other people, but not in an impolite way.
No, but
it's just a way of saying, I've got to finish this row.
As it all just coagulates into one big mess.
And I'm the worst knitter, literally. There's
all
holes
looking at you
in
going,
them.
what's going on?
But I did manage to knit both. Actually, this was crochet. I made a little hat for Gus and a little hat for Tom.
Oh, but also something real as well.
Yes.
But I actually, with Fellow Travellers, I was in Canada and I didn't. The filming hours are crazy as well, but I just listened to loads of music and just went for long walks.
Yes.
And you kind of have to keep yourself emotionally available or open or unhinged.
Yeah. I can't quite believe it. So you were shooting in different countries.
Yeah.
Not just different sets.
Yeah, it was, but at the time, it was fine at the time. It was, and then, obviously it comes out in the wash at some point. I had a perm for Bridgerton, and they were hair straightening my hair.
Oh my God!
Tim.
How do you even have any hair left?
Well, I
had
4 days holiday in between finishing in Canada, finishing Bridgerton, and then I had 4 days of Christmas, and then went straight into Wicked. And I went on holiday, and my hair looked like coral. It was just
crispy.
Underwater, just sort of floating around as if I'd had a good idea.
So did you have a wig?
I did.
Yes.
I had a big
Sorry
old
if that
toupee.
was a bad question.
No, it's true. So that's a big spoiler alert. But it's a toupee. I know. And with the choreography, so it's flapping about.
Have you read the script for the new one that you're about to do?
I have read the new Dinosaur.
Oh, that's exciting.
Jurassic Park,
When do you start filming?
Start in June. So,
You've got a
very
little
shortly.
tiny break.
Tiny break. Well, I've had a bit of a break, which has been great. Because you need to find
Yes.
those just to chill. And I do feel immeasurably more grounded and sane, so that's good.
I am now going to do a deep dive on so much more, and there's obviously so many things coming out. But you're a triple threat, and you climb mountains, and what haven't you done? I'm feeling very humble to have had this conversation, this moment with you.
Pleasure for me, and I've been deep diving alongside you for a long time in your career, which I think is amazing.
Oh, and we're both from England. I love that.
I know.
Brighton by the sea.
Brighton by the sea. I'll see you there, guys.
Oh. Yeah, I lived by the sea, but in Wales, and I lived all over England actually. But
oh yeah, nice.
People don't know that I have Welsh in me as well.
Do you?
Yeah, I love the ocean.
Yeah, I need it. That's why I stay in Santa Monica when I'm here.
That makes
Sorry,
sense.
are we still?
we don't. How do we end this?
I know. It's never going to end. It's never going to end.